Everybody ready? Anyway. They are misunderstanding the nature of our case. Our position is not that the black should get out of the streets and riot. Our position is when the Klansman is coming to your house as a result of tactical legal sanctions by the white racist government, you have the right to defend yourself in those situations. His argument on riots are all non-applicable to our cases. They assume that we do not advocate. I'm the observation on patriarchy. Yeah, I'll plead with the entire position. My first argument is caused by connection with moral evidence indicates it would be a double standard to allow some people to use riots, or some people to use violence as a political oppression, and not allow a double, and not allow those individuals who are oppressed to use the violence in return. My second argument is the movement does not solve our oppression. It is an NDH. Even the most enlightened feminist is inherently incapable of providing balance understanding of gender issues. Next argument is feminists need to defeat their own goals. Same source. It is remarkable how many of the feminists reduced by the body poisons and negativity lead to a self-defeating abortion. There's causes they espouse. Next argument is feminists can't solve oppression against women. It is an NDH. Women's rights are too important to be left to feminists, and each generation is too important to be left to women. Next argument is denounced feminism leads to a better future. It is an NDH. A better future will come from women, not from women alone, not from a new woman, a new man whose gender is limited to the genitals. Next argument is feminists decrease women's freedom. It is an NDH. The effect of feminism is to be less to free women and to impose a new set of constraints. Next argument is feminism accepts the dominant culture. This dominant 86. Radical feminism does not work because opposed itself to the opposite of the enemy and remains confident that in its own terms. It is a danger of becoming a full side of the dominant culture self-image. Next argument is removal to generate masculine values. Toxin 84. What an elite masculine order cannot do by direct top-down manipulation of our existence, we may do to ourselves by correctly construing that existence to light our notions of what life should be like. Next argument, feminists will adopt male model oppression. Ashkenazi 86. It is a valid symbol of the ultimate equality. For militant man-handed terrorists, for the gun or manipulation of the submachine gun, the ultimate joke of 40 theories on penis envy. Next argument is strength of the movement linearly increases patriarchy backlash. Grid 85. Women's equality is so strong that the threat to sexual masculine identities that are perceived as a threat to the very being of man. As women's role becomes stronger, so the weapons of the war become more destructive and less indiscriminate. Next argument is backlash for Catholics empirically verified. Grid 85. The increase in the number of violent attacks on women is viewed by many, and not only feminists' reaction to women's liberation movement, male chauvinist backlash. Next argument is subject support reaction. Grid 85. Sandwich research indicates that the provocation most likely to lead to selective force of violence in the entire repertoire of possible behaviors of those who perceive as threats to vital interests. Next argument is the more threatened the males feel, the greater their backlash. Sexualism and the war system 85. The more threatened the male power structure feels as a result of women's liberation efforts, the more violent will be the treatment of women. Next argument is backlash decreases equality. Biden 86. By including women in the competitive sphere of action, hetero 4 inhabited by men, both sexes must be the losers. Next argument cannot change male behavior. Condon 84. There is some evidence of men who endorse women's rights virtually or verbally nonetheless act in stereotyped traditional ways. Next argument is increases threat to feminism. Submission is a better option. 86. Feminism is actually dangerous to women and can be best achieved freedom in a Helgian manner by submission. Next argument literally causes higher level of patriarchy. Written 85. Certainly the more threat the male power structure feels as a result of women's liberation efforts, more violent will be the treatment of women. Second observation is the counterplan. My first argument on the counterplan is caused by 10 to 2 evidence indicates the non-violent advocates are sitting ducks. Remember that the option of retention argument in the resolution indicates the only way the negative can be validated is if they eliminate the option of violence to these individuals. That would be a detrimental effect to these individuals sitting in the streets. My second argument is no competition on the standard. Do both. You can oppose the evidence on 10 to 2 indicates the only way to give non-violence arguments T is to have some violence and to show these individuals the people with their backs will not just sit still for the government's oppressive activities. The only way to get non-violence to kick in at any levels and have violence. My next argument is black side armed self-defense. Nathan Heron 70. We have come around what is always inevitable. Whitney Young, the National Order League, and a veteran of long tradition of black migration, come to the public conclusion that black men in America are going to have to arm themselves for self-defense. Next argument is self-defense is universally justified. Scholastic in 69. In America, self-defense is always considered an honorable principle. The refusal to bow before police harassment strikes responsible for getting communities, especially among the young. It was essentially the ability to oblige to control their own organizations and rejection of white claims of honor explicit of political leadership. Next argument is non-violence against political oppression against racist attacks. Moral 91. The absence of black power within the racist state has always been an indirect expression of the enforceability and inability of the black nation to defend itself against omnipresent armed attacks from the whites. Next argument is passive resistance does not work in the United States. It only applies to majority societies. You go in 68. The first thing you know about God is passive resistance. It is not majority philosophy, minority philosophy. The first principle of practical God is strictly majority philosophy. That means that philosophy does not only apply in society to the oppressed will form the majority of the population. Next argument is U.S. cannot equal passive resistance. Same source. Understandably, for passive resistance, unlike the guerrilla type, cannot be a minority philosophy. It simply cannot work in society to the oppressed people less than the oppressors. Next argument is non-violent passive resistance is not equal societal shutdown. The whites keep the machine going. Same source. It is therefore out of place to claim like the United States with the oppressed African Americans are out by the white oppressor race. Because the blacks are out in the streets marching, resisting peacefully and passively, the whites are indoors working with the social machine going and laughing their heads off. Next argument is in pathological periods, black people stand alone. So you certainly can't count on the individuals in society to stand up for the blacks at the same time when they are standing in the street demanding their rights. This is Mark Washington 72. In November 1970, the National Commission on the Cause of Prevention of Violence reported that research it initiated revealed that only 8% of the American public were protesting the non-violent the mass repression, arrest, and imprisonment of black Americans, and only 9% were considered resisting with violence. The picture is now complete. Next argument is public vote to ban the crackdown of violence. Jefferson in 86. If Vincent Chan, a Chinese American, could be beaten to death and an unemployed Detroit workers believed mistaking him for a persona Toyota, and his killers will receive a $3,000 fine or prohibition, then black Americans not expect a rising wave of lynchings to the South to prick the nation's consciousness. Next argument is my evidence on case Levy that they are misappropriating and misanalyzing. It indicates we are entering such a social pathological period, and blacks are going to have to defend themselves against whites who are going going to be coming at them. My next argument is the government sanctions genocide towards the blacks, and it's going to be completed when they are vulnerable, i.e. non-violent attempts to change society. Michelle Washington, 72. In a project to deliver man of the choice to make foster racism, oppression, and exploitation against genocide. We don't want to have another land. That is a choice to be made only by the American public. The ultimate step will be taken only by the people who show that they will allow it to be taken. The choice is now ours. Case. Observation 2 on criteria. He says, why criteria? Cards are totally justified in self-defense in these instances of justified responsible legal oppression. My first argument saying have to look at the end. My first argument is caused by a right evidence on potential to this is the only option for people available in the situation. There is no other choice for them. My second argument is it is an inherent right which will subsume the ability to solve the problem. His third argument says life is the most important. My first argument is freedom to choose these individual situations is more important. His argument is if you would eliminate all life, perhaps that would be more important than eliminating some freedoms, right? But my position is that an individual situation where the classroom is coming at you in the street, which is the position we are taking on the case, as a result of a tacit agreement by the government to allow them to do that, you should not have to be forced with a decision to invalidate your ability to use violence simply because the non-violent aspect is more freedom-oriented or more life-oriented. That is not a choice you should be forced to make. My second argument is violence is the only option in these types of situations. That is the right attitude they're driving on the case. My third argument is use all arguments, right? Use violence and non-violence. Protest in the streets to stop that type of activity, and at the same time that the class would have to be coming at you in the ghetto area, you still have the right to use the gun in your hand. Please send the full evidence to indicate this is a self-justifying right. Detention one of the leading evidence. He indicates this is not consistent with our position on you should use violence below. That is not important. The miles we're getting out of the leading evidence indicates we're entering a socially pathological period in which racism is now on the rise in the late 80s. He's not finding this argument indicates we're going to be in a dangerous situation in terms of the black community. Howard Beach's example, he says, does not say you should be responsible. I'm justifying that on contention 2. Contention 2 now, please. Average evidence. He says this brand's non-violent gains are legitimate. My first argument is that this card indicates that the non-violence does not stop racist attacks, which eliminates unconvincing counterpoint and justifies you using at least the option of violence in the situation that we're describing in the case. My second argument is that the non-violence does not have to be proven to not solve anything, only the violence should be retained as an option for the blacks in these situations. The next argument he gives is that violence is worse, consequently average and Alvin Liberator evidence indicating that if you do not use violence in these situations, you are a sitting duck. The next card is Alvin Liberator. He says that it does not assume that the response of these blacks will be met with more kind of violence. My first response is the government cannot use counter-violence in this situation because they have acted tacitly in the first place. They have not taken repressive laws against the blacks, and they accept that the cherry society will be allowed to walk into the communities and take action against the blacks tacitly, so that the government doesn't have a hand in this. When the government doesn't have a hand in it, they can't turn around and say, now we're going to go after the blacks legally because they beat up the nasty Klansmen. They're not allowed to do it because they've gone through the process of taking a tacit action as opposed to one in the open. My next argument is the tacit government approval is increasing racism. Leyton 87. When civil rights got regarded, Reagan's background racists are more likely to display their feelings resulting in incidents like those at Howard Beach, Cunning, and hundreds of other places across the country. On the moral evidence, it begins a long block. His first argument says that you need concessions. My first argument is this is not to get opposition. I indicate the only way for these people to relieve their oppression is by using violence in individual situations. Group is second through 9th responses. My first argument is that all this evidence assumes riots, not self-defense. Second argument is status quo equals depoliticization of violence. We're not seeing the black community rise up in arms, there is no escalation of the process. My third argument is that his card, which is to claim on escalation, does not say that they will escalate. It said you have to start a riot initially, and that would not be the case, and that's not existing now. My fourth argument is you had a riot in Miami already, you have not seen escalation. Now drawn to the 10th argument, he says cannot go to violence, and alternatives this, crossed by red evidence says you have not got a return. On the new war stuff, my first argument is turn around, non-violence will put more pressure on the government according to them and counterplan, and that means that the government is going to be pushed to a corner and they will eventually respond to nuclear weapons. My second argument is if we don't get that, we don't pressure the government in that way. We don't take action to overthrow the United States government, hence we don't look at the new war scenario, but they do because they take non-violent action specifically to change governmental underpinnings.
So you're saying when you're suing the nuclear card says because there's pressure on the government, that's what you do?
Yeah, the card says that when the government feels pressure, that's when they get nervous.
Right.
Yeah, it says the connections of the poor to the mainstream of society.
Yeah, but it doesn't assume the pressure is coming from street violence.
Not that I know of. It just says
it doesn't mean
not that I know of. I don't see it.
I mean, we're both advocating pressure, right? I mean,
no. Well, I'm not advocating anything that's going to cause tremendous pressure on the government. I'm just saying if I prove A, that the government is sponsoring the Klansmen tacitly, B, the Klansman is coming towards you, you have a right to use violence in that instance against political pressure. That doesn't pressure the government in any way. Sitting out in the streets and trying to change the government's tactics towards the blacks is something that would pressure the government.
Okay, let's talk about this, the riot issue. Your only answer here, well, besides the fact that you say it's not unique, Miami had a riot, that an escalation. I need the 10th, 11th, and 12th inches so we can have link these are the cards.
Yeah. I'll push them out for you. Go ahead.
Are you still looking for
Okay.
okay. Your card, I want to know, what do you mean the status, your second response is status quo?
Depoliticized.
Explain that.
Well, the blacks aren't militant like they were in the 60s anymore. You don't see a concerted movement to overthrow the government. And so we're not advocating that. We're looking at this resolution pragmatically. We know that the blacks have no real propensity for rising up in a unified sense to overthrow the government. But we also know tacitly that the government is oppressing the blacks. The question is, given those two political realities, should they be able to respond with violence?
All right. So your other card here is there's no escalation, right? You're basing this argument that that self-defense stays contained.
No, this is all your, no. You don't have an escalation part. Cross-section is actually
Okay, I understand. I mean,
No, I understand
your response. I'm not arguing that. I'm saying, is your position here, though, that if you do use violence in self-defense, it will stay contained, only that action of self-defense?
Oh yeah, we know it does. Blacks have shot Klansmen in the past who haven't seen a nuclear war yet.
And there's been no counter-violence.
It does, as far as
is your position on case that the KKK and the white extremist groups that currently put pressure on them and discriminate now will back down with violence, or are you just saying it's just a right, regardless?
It's a right. They have a right to do it. Yeah, they have a right to retain that option.
Is there any evidence saying that even though they have that right, that would be a good option, that like the KKK will back down and that
all the evidence says all the evidence says non-violence doesn't work in these situations. By extension, says that it's the only option available in many instances.
Okay, how is this taking up?
It's not that the Klansmen are going to go look.
Maybe, let's talk about that, because this is going to be an issue. You argue that on the life precedent, that it's more important to have the freedom of choice of
Yes.
violence.
Yes.
Okay, I mean, if
Yes,
you didn't have a life, you wouldn't have a freedom to choose in the first place, right? I mean,
No, stop. I re-qualified that. I said if we're talking about the absolute existence of survival versus the absolute existence of freedom, you might have a different argument. We're talking about one man's life versus one man's option to use violence as a response to political oppression. That is not the same as the absolute position your cards talk about. Entirely different, not applicable in any way. They're not. You can't say survival is species is the same thing as freedom and then say, well, that means that when you're being attacked on the street by somebody, you have no right to respond because freedom is less important than survival.